My boss tried to ruin my career. It backfired spectacularly. So this happened about 2 years ago when I was working at a small engineering firm. It wasn't a huge company, maybe 25 employees total, but we handled a lot of construction projects in our city. I had been working there for about a year as a junior project coordinator. The job itself was great. I learned a lot and got along with most of my coworkers. Except for one person, my supervisor. Let's call him Mark. Mark had this strange habit of taking credit for other people's work. At first, I thought maybe I was imagining it, but over time it became obvious. If someone solved a problem or completed a complicated report, Mark would present it to upper management like it was his own work. And unfortunately, I was one of the people he liked to take advantage of. At first, I didn't say anything. I figured it was just part of being the new guy. I kept my head down and focused on doing good work. But things slowly started getting worse. One day we were assigned a very important project involving a commercial building renovation. It was a big deal for the company because the client was a well-known developer in our area. Mark told me to prepare the entire project proposal, the schedule, the cost estimates, the construction timeline, basically everything. For 2 weeks, I stayed late almost every night working on it. I double-checked every number, every detail, and made sure everything was perfect. Finally, the day came to present the proposal to management and the client. Guess who presented it? Not me. Mark walked into the meeting room with my entire proposal and started presenting it like he had done all the work. I was sitting there listening to him explain diagrams and calculations that I had spent hours creating. And the worst part? Management loved it. The director even congratulated him in front of everyone. I was furious, but I didn't say anything. Not yet. But this is where the story gets interesting. About a month later, we started actually executing the project. Now, here's the thing about the proposal. I had created a very detailed spreadsheet that tracked the entire project schedule and cost breakdown. It was extremely complex, and Mark had absolutely no idea how it worked, because he hadn't made it. He had just copied it and taken credit. One afternoon, he came over to my desk looking stressed. He said the client had asked for a major update to the project schedule and he needed the spreadsheet modified. I told him I could help, but he said something that made me pause. He said, "Just send me the file and I'll handle it." Now, normally I wouldn't think twice about that, but by this point I had learned exactly how Mark operated. If I sent him the file, he would make me do the work and then present it again as his own. So I decided to do something different. I sent him the spreadsheet, but I didn't explain how it worked. Now, I wasn't sabotaging anything. The spreadsheet worked perfectly fine, but it required someone who understood the formulas and links between different sheets. A few hours later, I heard Mark loudly sighing in his office. Then my phone rang. "Hey, can you come here for a minute?" I walked into his office and he looked extremely frustrated. He asked me why the spreadsheet kept changing numbers every time he edited something. I explained that the sheets were connected by formulas and that modifying one section would update the rest of the file automatically. He stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he asked if I could fix the schedule update. I said sure, but before I started working on it, I asked something simple. "Do you want me to prepare the update for you, or should I present it to the client directly?" Mark immediately said he would present it himself. Of course. So I updated the spreadsheet and sent it to him. The next day, there was another meeting with the client and upper management. This time, I wasn't invited. But about 30 minutes into the meeting, something unexpected happened. Mark suddenly rushed out of the conference room and walked straight to my desk. He looked completely panicked. Apparently, the client had asked several questions about the schedule calculations and cost projections, and Mark had absolutely no idea how to answer them, because he hadn't done the work. He quietly asked if I could come into the meeting and explain the details. So I walked in. The director asked me a few questions about the project timeline and budget adjustments. I answered them easily because I had built the entire system. The client seemed impressed and asked several more questions. For the next 20 minutes, I basically explained the entire proposal and schedule. The room slowly got very quiet. Eventually, the director looked at me and said something I'll never forget. "Wait, you're the one who created all of this?" I glanced at Mark. He was staring at the table. So I just said yes. And that's when everything started to unravel. The client asked why the project proposal had been presented by Mark earlier if I had done all the work. No one said anything for a moment. Then the director turned toward Mark and asked the same question. Mark tried to mumble something about team collaboration, but it was obvious what had happened. After the meeting ended, the director asked me to stay behind. He asked me to explain exactly how much of the project I had been responsible for. I told him the truth, which was basically all of it. A week later, something pretty surprising happened. Mark was no longer my supervisor. In fact, he wasn't supervising anyone anymore. The company reassigned him to a different department with far less responsibility. Meanwhile, I was asked to take a much larger role on the project. A few months later, I was officially promoted. And the best part?
The client specifically requested that I be the person managing the project moving forward. So in the end, Mark's attempt to take credit for my work actually ended up exposing him and helping my career instead. Sometimes karma just works itself out.